Hey Bison fans, add a little green in your wallet with the NDSU debit card from Gate City Bank. For every card ordered, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Get your Gate City Bank Bison debit card today at gatecity.bank/bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC.
Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra.
And welcome again to another edition of the Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra with Jeff Kolpack from the Forum. I'm Dom Izzo from WDAY Sports. We're working on this holiday for the first time in a long time.
2010
Yes.
to be exact.
We'll
yes.
get to that in a little bit. What is, I'm asking everybody, what's the go-to dish in the Kolpack household? What do you got to have tomorrow? What do you-
Pretty traditional. I
pushing
know
people out of the
we're
way?
kind of a Filipino family, but I think on Thanksgiving we stick to the basics,
Okay.
and Christmas we'll probably divvy it up a little
Yeah.
more. But yes.
Is there anything you fight to the get for? Like, okay, no one's touching this. This is mine. You got anything like that?
Well, I mean, obviously the turkey,
Yeah.
and I like the
Yeah.
the skin and the outer part of it.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah. I mean, as
find
the
that
guy who
everything
cuts the turkey, I take a couple and stuff them to
Okay,
the
well,
side.
There you go. You can, yes, they've
Yeah.
got that kind of right to you. There'll be no fighting for the turkey, at least today. That'll be coming up later this week. As North Dakota State is playing on Thanksgiving weekend, as Jeff mentioned, for the first time since 2010. They made their bet on that, Jeff, by losing 3 football games, but now it's over and done. The Drake Bulldogs are next ahead here. They won the Pioneer Football League. I think it's almost about 10 years since that league has had the automatic bid. First time ever that Drake is here. We saw them the first game of last season. I talked with Todd Stepsis, their head coach, about just the ascension up here of playing a UND, a North Dakota State, a South Dakota State. This was on purpose to get them ready for the Pioneer Football League. Now, they've rattled off 8 straight wins, but they are decided underdog here in this game Saturday.
Well, to say the least, when you look at the score of South Dakota State at Target Field, a 70-7 game. Now, can a team get a whole lot better since a 70-7 defeat? Yeah, I mean, there's elements you can improve on. And make no mistake, there are going to be 64 football players from Des Moines, Iowa, who will be sky high when they come here on
right.
Saturday. I mean, you'll see them at their most peaked as far as being prepared and being jacked up and ready to go. It helps that they've been here.
Yeah.
The last year, I think that'll help. It'll help the quarterback who at least has traveled here, and it'll help the head coach and all the environment. That being said, I think I have to question if the Pioneer Football League was down a little bit this year.
Yeah, this is not like when we saw, and Bison fans know, we saw San Diego here back-to-back years in 16 and 17, and they had won games. They had beaten Big Sky teams who were finished in the 3rd spot, I want to say, each of those seasons. I don't think this is as talented a team as we saw. That San Diego team had 3 NFL players.
I was about to say that. Yeah, they had 3 NFL players, and really they had some linemen too that were pretty close to being FCS caliber. NDSU actually got one of the San Diego linemen.
Salento.
Yep. And who had a decent career. He filled a role here. But that being said, I just don't know if Drake is physically able to handle what's going to hit him on Saturday. They obviously didn't prove it against South Dakota State and or the University of North Dakota. I mean, UND game was pretty lopsided too.
I want to ask you that what Matt Entz said when asked about not having the bye, and maybe that's a quote-unquote a good thing because they're rolling right now. I want you to expound on that a little bit because obviously you want the week off, you want the rest to get ready for and the knowing of the home game. But we have seen the Bison play their best football. There's no doubt about it the last 2 weeks to maybe keep the that's probably something he's got to tell his guys, right?
You got to spin it.
Yeah.
Dom, you got to spin it. If you're the head coach, you got to spin it the way that'll most benefit your team. Yes, of course you'd like to have a week off. I mean, it's been 8 games in a row in the Valley. Most are pretty physical affairs except for Western Illinois and to an extent Murray State. But of course you'd want to bye. But that being said, that's not happening. Nope. Now you say, okay, how can I talk about my team? How can I get them going? How can I focus them against a team? I mean, how hard? It's gonna be hard when they turn on that South Dakota State tape and go, "Oh my gosh, what are we? Who are we playing here?
Who are we facing off against? Right. That's the thing though, to get some reps in there, play a good football game, get your guys out, and get them ready for next week. That has to be the goal on Saturday.
As a coach, I mean, I think the goal is, okay, how fast can you get your backups in? I mean, you want to try to get as much of a bye or rest as you can. If you can get off to a 35-3 lead at halftime, and I don't know how much we'll see Cam Miller. I really don't. I mean, I think this could be a Cole Payton game. I think he's 6'3", 230 pounds. I think you'll see a heavy dose of Cole Payton run game, 20 miles an what was it, 20 miles
an hour on that touchdown.
I don't think
I'll show you that in a
I don't
second.
think Drake has anybody that can run 20 miles an hour.
And to your point, by the way, the NCAA regulations say you can only dress 64. So there's going to be less guys that are going to be dressed than the normal 78 that the Bison dress during home games during the regular season.
I wonder how those discussions are going on. Okay, what 14 do you leave off the travel roster?
That's a tough deal.
Do you go with 2 quarterbacks or do you have 3? I mean, you got to have 3.
You'd have to have 3.
How about your kickers? Do you leave one off? I mean, do you?
I imagine so. Yeah. I mean, but Eli Ozig's been their guy. So maybe you're dressing maybe 4 specialists then. So you're maybe one less linebacker, one less wide receiver that probably gets dressed. That's probably what's going to happen.
This could be the biggest point of discussion for the Bison coaches.
It really
this
is
week.
on that. Other point of discussion at this time of the year, season-ending awards. You had your ballot for Missouri Valley Conference All-Conference team. That'll be announced next week. You are not allowed to vote for Cam Miller, which I want to get to in a second, for QB1 or QB2. So tell me, who did you vote for, QB1 and QB2?
Well, I voted for Mark Gronowski just because of the solid year. To me, Mark Gronowski was Easton Stick of 2018. Just
really good.
He was the leader. I mean, statistically, he may not have gotten all the yards he probably could have.
Still pretty good, Easton was that year.
Yeah, but Easton was so undervalued from across the country because a lot of times he was, in the second half, he was just handing off or he was on the bench that year.
Much like Gronowski there. Who'd you do QB2? You remember?
I would have done Miller. I did Aiden Bauman from South Dakota.
Speaking of Cam Miller, though, Jeff, he is a finalist for the Walter Payton Award, which goes to show you what we've said all year. What a dynamite season he's had. 25 combined touchdowns, 14 passing, 11 rushing. I know you wrote about it today at Inforum.com about the kind of season. The Bison needed him to be great. He has been this season.
And what kind of a season he has? Well, I compared him with Trey Lance, Easton Stick, Carson Wentz, and Brock Jensen in their 4th years.
Pretty good.
And on Missouri Valley games only. So you have comparable opponents, and I think that's a comparable data. Cam Miller, the most least touchdown passes, but the highest completion percentage and the highest number of completions of those 5.
Okay.
Now, in rushing TDs, he was 2nd in rushing TDs in Valley games. In his 4th year in school. Lance, you have to compare because he was a redshirt freshman, and Carson Wentz, his 4th year essentially.
Yep.
He was
a
4th
redshirt
year
junior when he started.
But Easton had 7 touchdown rushing in 2018, and Cam 6. Anyway, the point being, the numbers are very comparable to those other Bison great quarterbacks. I know Cam Miller doesn't have that NFL aura. He's not 6'5", he's not 230. He doesn't have Easton's straight out flat speed, I would imagine. But you buy the numbers and you take those Valley games of these quarterbacks in their 4th years, except for Lance, he's right up there. He's right in the mix of those guys.
Yeah, he's had a dynamite year. I hope the voters reward him for that too, that he should be 2nd team. Gronowski should be 1st because he's on the quarterback of the best team in the division, but Miller should be number 2.
I mean, Easton was like 58% completion percentage in the Valley games, and Cam is in the 70s.
Way over that. Another finalist for a national award is Logan Kopp, and when you take away his stats of what he's done for the Buck Buchanan, Jeff, he's been a dynamite defensive player. He's been all over, whether it's sacks, whether it's interceptions, whether it's pass breakups. He's been everywhere.
And he's coming on, too. Yeah. And I also think Cole Wisniewski was overlooked on this, too.
Agree.
I think Wisniewski had a fantastic year. 2nd in the FCS in number of interceptions. Not to take away, I think both of them had every right to be nominated for. And this is on a defense that was kind of maligned over the year, too. But those 2 guys have really stood out. And maybe other guys are starting to come up into their level.
Bingo. That's what I was going to bring up, that the defense has played to a level the last 2 weeks that we are accustomed to. And maybe that's byproduct of what they've seen from 43 and 31 all season long.
Well, and if you're NDSU heading into postseason, you certainly hope so. I mean, I don't know if it'll matter this weekend, but then when you head to Bozeman and Montana State, then you're going to see an effective defense. Now, they gave up to 28 points to Northern Iowa. I understand that. But it took a lot of pass attempts by Theo Day, and the Bison also picked him off 4 times.
Sacked him 5.
And
right.
So I don't know if 28 is really an accurate reflection of how they played.
An accurate reflection of speed is what we saw Saturday night from Cole Payton, because that was something that we had not seen him basically, Jeff, for a month and a half, and then bam, he makes his return to the lineup and with a highlight reel 65-yard touchdown. Personally, I asked him this, which one was better, this or the other touchdown when he ran over a guy? I think he liked the running over of the guy, but this one he's going 20 miles an hour down the sideline.
You know what I liked about when he ran over the guy was his run against, Southern Illinois, I think it was, when he was 3rd and 4 and kind of sidestepped and wasn't that authoritative runner that he could be. And he tried to, I think, make more out of it, wasn't there, missed the hole, and NDSU eventually had to settle for a field goal. I saw more definitive right here. Now, this is what he needed to do against that play against Southern Illinois. He's 230. Those D-backs are 180. Who's going to win that battle?
Not the D-backs. Yeah. They're not going to win that. That's why, again, however this playoff run materializes, using him, and even though defenses know it's coming, that's still a load to try and bring down.
Yep, I'm talking to one of the Bison coaches this week. I think they made a point of that sometimes you got to put your foot in the ground and just go instead of trying to look for the hole for the home run all the time.
And that's another thing. I know we got to go to break. Raja Nelson's brought that to the table as well.
Yes.
Where if you have Nelson and Payton able to do that, then the traditional A-gap power may not be there, but you've got something else that you can use in the run game.
Right, Raja's taken his confidence to a whole new level, and his last month has just. Again, we've said it for a week now or 2 weeks. It just came out of the light bulb went on or something like. I don't know what. It's hard to explain, but he's just a whole different player.
We'll take a break here. When we come back, we'll look back to that first FCS playoff home game the Bison played 13 years ago this weekend when Robert Morris came to town, and look at the whole bracket as well. We roll out of the Bison Media Zone on WDAY Extra. We're going to be back right after this. Welcome back here. Bison Media Zone show rolls on with Jeff Kolpack, Dom Izzo here. So, as I mentioned off the top, first time the Bison are playing in the opening round since 2010. This is crazy. I'm going back here. We got the video of this. It's like it's from 25 years ago. It's only from 2010 on this.
Is it even in HD?
It was not in HD, actually. That's the fun part about it. Here's the crazy. It was a night game. Do you remember that?
No.
It was a 6 o'clock game.
No.
12,202 were in attendance. Robert Morris was coached by former Jet coach Joe Walton.
That's
and
right.
Crazy part about this, the Bison trailed 7-6 at halftime.
Are you kidding me? I don't remember that either.
7-6, where they came back and won 43-17. This was a different age.
Oh, the middle screen,
Yeah, right?
alive. Whatever happened to the middle screen? That was just the play of death for several years.
That went to work, that same play in the national championship.
Maybe it's time to bring that out of the closet.
But it was such a weird and interesting vibe. It was loud, Kolpack. This was the first playoff game in the history of the Fargodome. The excitement level was palpable because we just didn't know.
Well, the Fargodome was opened in 1993, and one of the reasons it got voted on and one of the success rates was, well, you can host Bison football playoff games, which, by the way, on the renovation, I hope everybody votes yes. That's a little, my little disclaimer.
Sidebar
there. But, yeah, it was open in 1990, and one of the thoughts, okay, they're going to have playoff games.
Tons of games, right?
Yeah, and you know, all through Division II, Rocky, nope. Babbage, nope. All of a sudden, Craig Bowl. Then you have the transition. Yep. There's 5 years you can't have playoff games. And so, yeah, there was a good percentage that rightfully should have been jacked. Now, we as fans and a fan base are very well educated now on the FCS and the playoff system.
So what do you think?
So what is it going to be? Yeah. I just don't know if you're going to have 10,000.
I would say under 10 is probably the thing. Just a opponent. At that point, we had no idea how good Robert Morris was. They won their league. The Bison were a fourth-place team in 2010.
Well, people, when Valparaiso came here in 2004, there was thoughts that, the Bison good enough to beat him. I go, okay, I know enough about football where, yes, I think it's going to be decisive. And Valapalooza turned out to be 56-0 or something.
I think, honestly, the litmus test, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more next week because the Bison went to Montana State after that, much like they could go to Montana State if they win Saturday. And that's when we found out how good the power run game and what North Dakota State could do in the FCS playoffs after that.
Well, yeah, and you just didn't understand on a national level what this program could do, and on the playoff level. And I think a lot of people say, a lot of players will say, and a lot of coaches and administrators, that even though the loss at Eastern Washington was a loss, that was a judgment of how close this team was to national competition.
Let's take a look at the playoff bracket. We know the Bison will face Drake with the winner to get Montana State. That quadrant, Kolpack, by no underestimation, is the hardest part of this FCS bracket in my mind.
If you're Montana State, you can't be happy. You got seeded 6, and then you get a 9-time champion possibly probably not. You will get it in the second round. Yeah. You do that, then you got South Dakota.
South Dakota can't be happy either with the fact they might get UND again.
And then the winner of Montana State and NDSU. So they're on the other side, South Dakota State's got what,
it's like the yellow brick road to Frisco for them, really. I look at that with Furman there. I don't see any. Furman's going to beat either Chattanooga or Austin Peay won 9 football games. I'll throw that out there. They're not a pushover. I'll just say that.
But if you're Montana State, you go, okay, we're seated ahead of Furman, and then yet we get NDSU ahead of Chattanooga or Austin Peay.
Where the regionalization really comes in. That Sac State UND game is probably going to be the best game I would think of the weekend on Saturday.
100%. Yeah, 100% Sac State. I think UND is going to win this game. I'd be curious to see how many people show up in that game.
Yeah. Other side of the bracket, as Jeff mentioned, that South Dakota State side where
bow wow.
It is paved there.
Barf.
Youngstown's going to win. Nichols, Southern Illinois, probably be interesting in the first half. I imagine SIU, though, will pull away there. Gardner-Webb Mercer, that's Stacey Ederson's Mercer Bears there. Gardner-Webb won in the first round last year. They beat Eastern Kentucky.
But if you're Youngstown State, you got to be loving this pair because you're going to take care of Duquesne. You got Villanova, which is a very beatable team at an 8th seed. And then you probably face the Jacks.
Right?
But for Youngstown State and Doug Phillips, what a great path for your program and your ascension. Remember, they were down in the dumps just 2-3 years ago, and they have a chance to get the quarterfinals.
When we saw Youngstown come here, it was the spring of 21. That was his first year. And he's going to do it a different way than what Bo was doing. Going to recruit locally, going to get high school guys in. They won 7 games that got left out last year. They won 7 and got in this season.
And he's stayed true to the word. Doug Phillips, he's gotten all high school kids. They had maybe a couple guys from the portal, which was
Mitch Davidson's had a really good year.
30 less than what Bo Pelini did his last year. And the running back they got from the Division II Michigan school has been pretty good.
It's been a really good find for them. I'm with you. I think they have a pathway where the Valley could, of the 8 quarterfinalists, 5 maybe.
Yeah, well, I think certainly they'll have 6 all playing in the second round.
Next weekend. I'm saying in the quarters, they could have 5 maybe with the Bison, USD, Youngstown, SDSU. Keep an eye on
We've said all year, Patty Viverito's got to be smiling. She has a dominant team, and then she had 6, 7, 8 other teams all in contention for a playoff run, and they could be playing for a while.
Don't forget, though, we're with you on Saturday morning for Bison Game Day. Jeff, Logan, Kyle, and myself, 10 a.m.
It's
on
the
WDAY.
victory tour. It's my victory tour.
We have that with the FCS Playoff Nickel will be out there on Saturday morning. And the game is exclusive to ESPN Plus on Saturday at 2:30. We'll have highlights and reaction on WDAY coming up at 6 and 10. Everybody have a happy Thanksgiving. Thanks so much for watching the Bison Media Zone. We're back next week, whether to wrap or to get ready for Montana State. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. Thanks for watching. See you next Wednesday here on the Bison Media Zone.
Card from Gate City Bank in their wallet. Plus, they know that for every card order, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Show your spirit with your own Bison card today at gatecity.bank/Bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC.